Alright, in this lesson, we're going to look at props in React. Let's return to the React docs to see how components that we have just covered relate to props. Components lets you split the UI, user interface, into independent, reusable pieces, and think about each piece in isolation. Conceptually, components are like JavaScript functions. They accept arbitrary inputs, called props, and return React elements describing what should appear on the screen. Props is simply shorthand for properties. They are how components talk to each other. Props are a way of passing data from parent to child. They are a top-down communication from parent top components to children bottom components. Props flow downward. Remember that. React is said to have unidirectional data flow. Props are used when you need immutable data, and immutable data is just a fancy word for saying not changing. You could call them read-only. You might already be asking, what if we want to respond to user input? We won't necessarily handle that situation with props, as data flows from parent to child, not child to parent, as with user input. Something called state handles that, which we will talk about in a not too distant section. Now, while we have taken a brief look at props, let's go ahead to the code and start working. In this lesson, we'll work with props and stateless functional components. You will want to go ahead and create a folder called Section 5. In the source code for this course, I have set up a boilerplate.html file that will allow you to copy the basic startup content of script tags so we can get right to coding. Go ahead and grab that from my GitHub source code content if you desire, or you can create the environment from scratch if you would like. For this lesson, we'll go ahead and create an index.html file. Once you have created that code, you can paste the boilerplate.html code into the file so we are ready to start our lesson. We'll go ahead and create our first stateless functional component and we'll name it person. Next, let's go ahead and make sure that this is the component that we're going to render to the DOM. So we'll go to the React DOM.render method and replace the hello world placeholder I have right here with the person component. Now, in a moment, we're going to pass data down from this to put into the parameter and argument of props. You should use the props word exactly. Next, let's set up an h1 tag. We'll say hi. Then we're going to put in some curly brackets. This is going to be a JavaScript expression that we want to evaluate. Our props argument is going to be a JavaScript object. Keep that in mind, and I'll open up the console in a bit to hopefully bring some clarity. So our expression will be the props JavaScript object we want to evaluate, and then we'll say .name. We are saying that on our props object we want to evaluate, the value of the name property on that object. Currently, we do not have a value, so we need to pass that from the top down. Remember, unidirectional data flow. Let's go to our React DOM.render method and we'll type in name. This is automatically going to belong to the props object. We'll go ahead and give it a value of my name. For you, you can input the value of your name if you would like. So we type in name equals the string of Rob. Behind the scenes, it looks something like this. Let's go ahead and open up the Chrome browser. I'll go to the address about:blank and open up the Chrome console. Let's go ahead and retype in our props object and set it to the property and value of name and the string Rob. Let's look at the value of props.name. The result is Rob. So when we put curly brackets around the value of props.name, we are simply doing this. Sorry if that was redundant and over-explaining, but this is a crucial concept that I want to make sure you get, as we'll spend quite a bit of time looking at props in React. Let's go ahead and return to our code and open it in the browser. And there it is. Our value that we passed from the top down is being rendered to the DOM. Now, let's return to the code, and we're going to start to get a glimpse of how much more we can do with so much less as we start to harness the power of React. In future lessons, we're going to return to some of the code we have written and reduce the amount of code and show how quickly we can recreate components with props. Previously, it took lines 24 through 28 to write out this component and get hello Rob to render to the DOM. But what if we wanted to say hi Sarah, Jill, or Bill? Previously, we have built a component for each of those names and hard-coded their name into those components. There's gotta be a better, faster, and more efficient way, right? There is. We can now take our person component and pass down a new piece of data. We need to go ahead and create an opening and closing div in our React DOM.render method. Then we'll go ahead and take our current component and copy it, then we'll paste it in 3 times. Now, all we have to do is go into each of the name properties and change their values to the name of those we want to say hi to. Once you've done that, go ahead and open this up in the browser. Alright, there it is, great job! We accomplished in 1 line of code what was once taking us several lines of code. See you in the next lesson.